In our program, we are also joined by our Senior Science Center Manager, Mr. Akash Dasrath, to come. That's a scientific name, right? Is it? Akash Dasrath. Yeah, you must do it, Akash Dasrath. Excellent. So that is our Sci-Bono Senior Science Center Manager. You see now I'm giving you very top people, right? Yeah, to come and talk to you. Now Akash Dasrath is here to come and introduce our speaker of today. Let's clap hands for Akash Dasrath.
Thank you, Program Director, for that very interesting intro. How are you guys doing today? Are you excited to be here? Do you know why you're here? You know, most of the time people, they sit in the seats here and they don't know why they're actually here. But I hope that you will enjoy today. We've got a very exciting program ahead. The first one is our Speak to a Scientist, which you guys are here for. Okay, so what are you guys here for? Speak to a Scientist. Okay. Well, let me take this opportunity to welcome you all, the educators that are joined here today as well, and our colleagues that have joined us virtually. I have the honor today of introducing our guest speaker for this insert of Speak to a Scientist. Her name is Mrs. Sharon Bolel from SAFI, which is the South African Association of the Flavour and Fragrance Industry. Sharon holds formal qualifications in chemistry, maths, microbiology, business management, and marketing. She has worked as a food chemist in medical research, as technical editor in technical sales, marketing, and general management. She is currently the executive director of SAFI and has a particular interest in educating and informing the food, beverage, FMCG industry and public about the important role and significance of regulations associated with flavorings. One interesting thing about Sharon is that she's married with a large family, of which she's extremely proud of, and which takes up a lot of her time. So without further ado, let me hand you over to Mrs. Sharon Bolel.
Let's clap hands.
Oh, good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to be with you, and I really do thank Akash and Kolani and the whole of Sci-Bono for inviting me to this very, very special occasion. And I thank all of you for listening very, very carefully to what I've got to tell you. Because what I have to tell you today about flavors and fragrances affects every single one of you and every single one of your families and every single person on the planet.
Recording in progress.
That's interesting, no? So, we're going to talk about flavors and fragrances as potent wizards to transport you through time and space. Who knows what a flavor is? Yeah? Put up your hand if you know what a flavor is. Put up your hand if you know what a flavor is.
My name is Simpiwe Sibanyoni. A flavor is a taste that you find in a food or a beverage.
Okay, Simpiwe, thank you. I'm going to tell you that, I'm going to prove to you that flavor and taste is not the same thing. Okay. So, first of all, we start with a quote from a very interesting lady. Has anybody here ever heard of somebody called Helen Keller? Helen Keller was a very interesting lady. She was born normal, and then she suffered from an illness which caused her to lose her sight and her hearing. So she was completely blind and she was completely deaf. So she had to interact with the world, not through seeing and not through hearing. She couldn't talk, she couldn't hear, she couldn't let other people talk to her, and she couldn't see, and she couldn't see the world around her. She had to interact with the world through the senses of taste and smell and touch. And through her work and through her growth and through her expansion of her mind and through her learning, even though she was completely blind and completely deaf, she became a very, very famous author and a very famous philosopher. And if any of you have access to Google, I suggest you look her up and read a little bit about her life story. It's fascinating. And she said, because remember, she interacted with the world through her smell, through her taste, and through her touch, not through sight or hearing. She said that smell is a potent wizard that transports you across thousands of miles and all the years that you have lived. So we're going to talk today, one of the things we're going to talk about is smell, because smell and fragrances are connected. Do any of you ever go shopping? I'm sure you do. Yes, of course you do. And in your shopping exercise, you take a trolley and you fill up that trolley with a whole lot of groceries, right? Well, what I want to tell you is that almost every single one of those groceries that you put in your shopping trolley has got either a flavor or a fragrance in it. Either a flavor or a fragrance. Think about it. From A to Z, aftershave lotion, beverages, cosmetics, dehydrated foods, everything. I'm not going to read through the whole list. You can all read it on the screen there. But absolutely every single item that you put in your trolley has either got a flavor, if it's something that we eat or drink, or a fragrance, if it's something that we put on our skin, or we perhaps use in our household cleaning, for example, has a fragrance in it. Are you all with me? Yes. Great. Now you might ask me, Akash said, today you've all come to speak to a scientist program. What in the world has this nonsense got to do with science? Did any of you ask yourselves that question? No, you should. What has this got to do with science? I'm going to tell you, because I am a flavor scientist. So I'm going to tell you what this has got to do with science. And the truth is that everything in the world is about science. Even if you want to become a shoemaker, a cobbler, if you study the materials that you use to fix the shoes, and you know what they're made of, and you know how they work, and you know which glue is better than which other glue, that is all science. If you're cooking in your kitchen, and you're putting vinegar, and you're putting eggs, and you're putting oil, and you're putting flour, that is science. Do you know that your bodies are completely composed of what? Chemicals. Your bodies are made of chemicals. So everything about your body is science. So science is a very, very important thing. In fact, I think science is the most important thing. Who thinks science is the most important subject in the world? I can't hear. So I still can't hear. Thank you. Right. Okay, now we're going to talk about, and Simpiwe said that flavors are taste. Thank you for being brave, Simpiwe. Flavors have got a lot to do with taste, but flavors are way more than just taste, and I'm going to explain why. How many of you know how many senses we have? How many senses do we have? 5. I think everybody said 5. Well done. What are they? The sense of smell. The sense of the sense of Simpiwe can tell us the sense of taste, the sense of, and the sense of, I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon? Thank you. Right. So flavor is not only about taste, it's definitely part of it, but flavor is about all of our 5 senses. And I'm going to show you why and how. Let's imagine for a minute that we each are about to bite into a juicy red apple. How many of you like juicy red apples? Yeah, we all do. No. Okay. Before we bite into the apple, what do? Let's choose which of those 2 apples you want. Which are you going to choose? Left. Is anybody going to choose the right one? Why? It's rotten. Thank you. Right. It's rotten, and we won't choose it because we are using our sense of sight to see which one is more appealing. Which one is more appealing? Number 1, before we eat anything or drink anything, we use our sense of. So flavor has got to do with your sense of sight. Next, I want you to be very, very quiet, please. Shh. Did that sound good? Yes? No? Okay. What does it sound like if you bite into a crunchy apple? It sounds good. Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds crunchy. What happens if you bite into an old, soft, floury apple? Doesn't sound good, right? Am I correct? So the sense of hearing plays a part in the flavor experience. Am I right? Okay, next. How does the sense of touch affect our flavor experience? Is there anybody who can answer that question? Let's have a microphone for somebody who wants to tell us how they think the sense of touch affects the flavor experience.
I think it affects it because you can touch, but you cannot see the thing. You understand?
What about the touch is going to affect your experience?
I think it's going to affect it because you might not touch the thing, but you might see it, you know.
Okay.
Okay, let me put it like this. I feel like maybe you have 2 apples, né? Then there's a rotten one and there's a good one. Then you touch the rotten one. You might think it's okay, but like sometimes I might say like you have to see it so you can, you know, yeah.
Okay, I think you definitely are on the right track.
Yes.
You are on the right track.
Yes,
Is there
yes.
anybody else who wants to add? What is your name? Sorry?
Karabo.
Karabo.
Crabs.
Okay.
I'll bring the mic there. I can see the hand.
Is there anybody?
Yeah,
There's a
there-
student
there's
here. Yes. First, give us your name, please.
Wandi,
Hi, Kwandi.
if the surface of the apple is rough, you might not eat it.
Say that again.
If the surface of the apple is rough, you might not eat.
Excellent. If the surface If the surface of the apple is rough or dirty or full of sand, maybe if it fell on the ground, or if you bite into it and it's soft and gooey. Okay, that is all about the sense of touch. You are feeling, even though it's sometimes with your mouth, you are feeling what the texture of the apple is like. Am I right? And that's all about your sense of touch. And that's going to change your flavor experience. It's going to change your flavor experience. Okay, the next sense is the sense of smell. Okay, let's continue. The sense of smell. How does the sense of smell affect our flavor experience? Well, I'll tell you something very interesting. When we, for example, eat an apple, the molecules, the flavor molecules, the flavor components, the portion of that apple that we taste, some of those things actually we also smell. That makes sense, right? When you're eating an apple, thank you. So some of that eating experience of the apple, you're actually smelling the aroma of the apple, aren't you? How many of you have ever bought shampoo that's called apple shampoo? You're not going to eat the shampoo, but it smells like apples, doesn't it? So the sense of smell is actually also very important when we eat, because the molecules go into our nose and they go up to our brain, and we detect them or engage with them as a smell, as a fragrance. So the sense of smell is very important when we are eating and the flavor experience. How many of you remember that when you have a cold, you don't taste your food very well? Yeah? You don't taste the food. It doesn't taste. The meat doesn't taste like meat, and the apple doesn't taste like apple. That's because your nose is blocked and you're not smelling. So the smelling sense is very important also for flavors. And then, of course, the last one is our sense of taste. And Simpiwe, you spoke about that. And taste is probably the most important sense when it comes to flavors, but it's not the only important one. And there are 5 basic tastes, not flavors, tastes. The 5 basic tastes are, there we go, sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and something called umami, which is sort of meaty and savory. Okay. Now, every taste has got different levels of those 5. I'm not going to go into it now. But flavor is way more than that, because flavor is that together with the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of smell, and the sense of touch. That is what a flavor is. It's way, way more than a taste. Do you get it, guys? Yes. Right, excellent. So flavor is an overall sensory perception. It's something that, it's an experience. It's an experience that you actually experience with all your 5 senses. I'm going to show you a short clip. Have any of you seen the movie Ratatouille? Yes. Okay, so please be very quiet, because we want to hear what they say. And you will see that what is going on here is an overall sensory experience. This is what flavor is.
Oh, Gusteau was right. Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing. Each flavor was totally unique. But combine one flavor with another, and something new was created. I brought you something to... Ah! No! Spit that out right now! I have got to teach you about food. Close your eyes. Now, take a bite of this. No! Don't just hork it down!
Too late.
Here. Chew it slowly. Only think about the taste. See?
Not really.
Creamy, salty, sweet, and oaky nuttiness. You detect that?
Oh, I'm detecting nuttiness.
Close your eyes. Now taste this. Whole different thing, right? Sweet, crisp, slight tang on the finish.
Okay.
Now, try them together.
Okay. I think I'm getting a little something there. It might be the nuttiness.
See?
Could be the tang.
That's it. Now, imagine every great taste in the world being combined into infinite combinations. Tastes that no one has tried yet. Discoveries to be made.
I think. You lost me again.
Ha.
Okay, so there you can see that these two fellows actually used all their senses. Part of it was about tasting for sure, but there was listening to the crunch. There was closing your eyes and feeling how they feel in your mouth, etc., etc. Right? So that was all about flavor. Flavor is a whole sensory experience. Do you get it? So next time you eat some food, I want you to experience it. See how it feels. See how it smells. See how it sounds when you bite into it, etc. And remember to tell all your family, this is a flavor experience. It's not just a taste. Now we're going to talk about fragrance. So fragrance, we talk about a fragrance as being a compound, anything that has a pleasant smell or a pleasant odor. Something that we like, something that's pleasant. That's a fragrance. Okay. A bad smell is called either an odor or a stink. Okay. And that's very important in our industry. Because in our industry, a lot of the products that we make have to cover up bad smells. So it's not only about creating good smells, it's also about covering up bad smells. Now, fragrance isn't only about the smell or the aroma. It's about experiences. And it's very much about memory. In your brain, the part of your brain which remembers and which carries, it's called the seat of memory, is right next to the part of your brain which smells. So I want some of you to think about. Close your eyes for a minute, everybody, and imagine the smell of delicious, fresh, baking bread. Yeah? Is there anybody here who is brave enough to tell us what does that remind you of? Is there anybody who can tell us what the smell of fresh baking bread reminds you of? Yeah, here's somebody.
Where?
Yeah. Yeah, in the front, right here. Yeah. Okay.
Guys, my name is Natasha, first of all. Yeah, when I remember when my mother and I were going to the mall and we were passing by a shop and they were baking breads and cookies. So my mother said we must buy them. So when I tasted them, they tasted so good.
Right. You told us a whole story. What's your name?
Natasha.
Natasha told us a whole story. Because thinking about that smell of baking bread reminded her of going with her mother to the mall, passing the bakery, smelling the smell, going into the store, buying some of the products there, eating them, and they were delicious, right? She told us a whole story. That is what fragrance is. Fragrance is about a story. It's about a memory. Who can tell us what the delicious smell of stew, a beautiful big pot of meat stew on the stove? Is there anybody who remembers anything associated with that? There's somebody up there. What does that pot of stew remind you of?
It reminds me of this other wedding I went, of my auntie's wedding. So like they cooked, what's this? I think a lamb shake. It's called the lamb shake, yeah, type. Yeah.
Right. A story.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. You're sharing with us a story. Give
Thank
him
you.
a clap. Okay, guys. Who wants to tell us and share with us the story or the memory associated with Cobra floor polish? Yeah, yes. Have you got the mic?
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. I remember cleaning my mother's room, mopping down the floor after I caught the cobra.
And how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel you. Unexplainable. It's unexplainable. You.
So fragrances make us feel things. They make us miss people who are no longer with us. Maybe if your grandmother was the one who used to use Cobra floor polish and she's no longer with us, then suddenly you start to miss her like crazy, isn't it? What about Johnson's baby powder? Oh, we all remember that smell. Yes, yes. Little brothers, little sisters, whatever. It reminds us, it takes us back, doesn't it? Okay, guys, quiet, please. So, fragrance is about a story. It's about a memory. It's about invoking a feeling. And if you look at the adverts, next time you look at the adverts, for all the products that have got fragrances in them, whether they be cosmetic products, whether they be perfumes, whether they be shampoo, personal care products, whether they be household products, you're going to see in that advert, it talks about feeling and memory and the whole experience, the story of what that fragrance actually brings, not only the fragrance. Okay, so why is all of this that I'm talking about, why is it called science? Well, I'll tell you why. It's very, very simple, because in our industry, when we take a journey from the initial concept of the product, so we have in our head a product that we think is going to be a successful product, a strawberry fragranced foam bath for babies, for example. That's the concept. We have to take it along a long journey to eventually putting that product on the shelf of the shop. And that journey has within it many, many different careers and many, many different aspects of science at different stages of the journey. And I'm going to tell you about some of them. My list is not complete, but if any of you really want to get into any of these careers, just focus on your science and on your maths and on your creative and innovative thinking ability. Focus, guys. The world is your oyster. You have the future in your hands to take you to a place where it's exciting and the adventure is ongoing. So the journey from concept to product starts with the search for new flavor and fragrance ingredients. A lot of plants smell very nice. We can go into all the places in the whole world and look for new products which smell nice and have a particular pleasant fragrance. Then we have those people who have to come up with the ideas. Like I just said, maybe an idea for a strawberry fragranced bath foam for babies. For example, there's millions and millions of ideas of products that contain flavors and fragrances. Let your mind run wild and come up with some new ideas. The production, the actual production in the factories of the ingredients that we use in flavors and fragrances. And then the perfumer or flavorist, that's the person who puts all the chemicals together and makes these beautiful, beautiful fragrances or flavors. The application, how to apply, if you've got a delicious roast chicken flavor, how to actually put it onto your crisps. You can't just throw it in the packet because the flavor will sink to the bottom, the crisps will stay at the top, and when you eat them, you won't taste any roast chicken. You'll only taste potato. Okay? So there's a whole science of how to apply the flavors and fragrances into the products. And then there's something called consumer or sensory science. Going out to the consumers in the stores and saying, here's Coke, here's Pepsi, which one do you prefer? And then taking all of that information and using it in order to tell Coke or to tell Pepsi they're doing something right, they're doing something wrong. It's all mathematics, it's statistics, it's science. Packaging technologist, how to pack things. Certain products can't be packed in plastic. Do you know why? Because the product eats the plastic. And if you put it on your shelf, 2 weeks later you'll come and you'll find big holes in the actual plastic packaging and all the product on the floor. So a packaging technologist is also about science. Which products to pack into which materials, how the shape of the packaging should look, what color it should be, what the cap should look like, why should you use a tube instead of a tub, why should you use a box instead of a plastic container, and so on. And then there's regulations and safety. Is there anybody here who wants to be a lawyer? Yes. Okay, so there's a lot of room in our industry for people to get involved with the regulations and the safety testing of all the products, because everything that we use has to be tested because it has to be safe. We don't want things out there. Have any of you heard about these horrible stories now about children who are getting sick and dying from food poisoning? Horrible. So that's a very good example. We, as the Flavour and Fragrance Association, has to make sure that all the flavors and fragrances that are sold in our country have to be safe. And there are lots and lots of jobs there for people who like law and that kind of topic. And then there's, of course, the business science. And business is a science. You can't just go out with products onto the street and sell them. You have to think, you have to plan. Have you ever heard of the word strategy? You have to work a business strategy, and that is science. So even if at the end of the day you own a flavor company and business is your game, you are also a scientist. So we're going to go through some of these careers to see what the type of thinking, what the type of intelligence you have to have in order to do that profession. If you want to go and search for new flavor and fragrance ingredients, you have to be adventurous. You have to understand science. You have to know about botany, which is the study of plants. You have to know about chemistry, and you also have to want to travel. Okay. If you are a creative innovator, you have to have a creative mind. You have to be an innovator. But you also have to understand market knowledge, scientific knowledge. You have to be good at solving problems. Robotics is a very good example of this. Okay, having a problem and solving the problem. Here, for example, is a tiny little problem. A man rides into town on Friday. He stays one night and leaves on Friday. How is this possible? Does anybody have an answer for me? All right, think about it and come to me. If you know the answer, come to me afterwards and I'll give you a prize. Now, I don't know about a prize, but anyway, okay. Right, the production of ingredients. Those of us who enjoy working in a production facility, in a factory, with distillation, with equipment, in a laboratory, those kind of environments, those people would do very well to produce ingredients. They have to be able to think critically. They have to have the technical and scientific knowledge. They have to have a continuous learning mindset. You never ever stop learning. You have to have good communication skills, and you have to be able to organize very well. If you want to be a perfumer or a flavorist, that's really like either a musician or an artist. A perfumer, the lady on the left, has thousands of different chemicals, and they all smell different. And she has to mix them in particular quantities in order to make a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. So she's like a composer of music. She's like taking notes and putting them together and coming out with a beautiful piece of music or a beautiful fragrance. And the flavorist is like an artist. He takes all his spices and all his chemicals and puts them together to give you a fantastic flavor. What is your favorite flavor? Let's talk about crisps, for example. Potato crisps, Simba, Willards. What's your favorite flavor? Salt and vinegar, barbecue, chutney, cheese. Right, so everybody's got different preferences. So those flavors, quiet, those flavors are put together with different chemicals like an artist paints a picture. And then there's the application job of taking those flavors and those fragrances and putting them in the finished products. Because like I told you with the crisps, you can't just throw it in. You have to work out how's it going to stick to the crisps so that when you take one from the top of the bag, you're actually going to taste the flavor. And then there's the consumer science, engaging with consumers to see what they like, what they don't like, what they prefer, what they don't prefer. If you change your supplier, whether it's changed your product, and so on. This is a very, very important science, and there's a whole science today that you can study, which is called consumer science. Packaging design and technology we spoke about. Regulations and safety, these are the lawyers amongst us. And then there's the business science. So really the flavor and fragrance world is a whole world. It's not just a small segment of industry. It's an entire world which is based on science. And if any of you are interested in any more information, you can always come to me and ask me for my card. I'll give you my card. You can talk to me anytime about it if you maybe want to follow a career in this industry sector. So, if flavors and fragrances interest you, if the search for new flavor ingredients excites you, if you are a creative, innovative thinker, if you would like to work in a laboratory or a production facility, if you have the flair to be a perfumer or a flavorist, if you are interested in consumer or sensory science, if you have artistic and technical aptitude to design packaging, if you are interested in law, in regulations, and in safety, if you are even a budding business professional, a budding entrepreneur, then this industry could possibly be for you. It's exciting, it's fascinating, it touches every single product that you use. From the moment you wake up in the morning, when you go and brush your teeth, the toothpaste has got flavor in it, until you go to sleep at night and you have a nice cup of herbal tea before you go to sleep, that herbal tea has got a flavor in it. So right across the board, from the minute you wake up until the time you go to sleep, you are in a world which is filled with flavors and fragrances. And just the last point, Edwin Hubble was a very, very famous astronomer. And have any of you heard of the Hubble Space Telescope? Yeah? Okay, it's named after him. And he said, equipped with your 5 senses, remember, it's not only about taste or about smell, it's your 5 senses. Man explores the universe around him, and he calls the adventure science. Science, guys, is an adventure. And I wish you all well, and I hope that you enjoy the adventure. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Sharon. I don't know if we can just take 2 questions from our audience. Just 2 questions before we close. I think you guys heard a lot about flavors. You had a different business now. You have seen where science is going. You have seen the chemistry that we are doing in the classroom, where it's taking us, the physics. You have also heard about the legislature part of doing a business as well. To say these things, I had somebody complain about Makula somewhere there, when Sharon was talking about food poisoning, things like that. So packaging of our products leading to some of our own society members to get sick. So you can see science is very much broad. So with these 2 words, I can only take 2 questions because we have another event after this in here. Anyone having a question to her? It's a lifetime opportunity that I'm giving you. You're going to hear about flavors and all these things, probably at the university, or you'll be challenged. Oh, you're taking, there's the mic coming to you, behind you.
My name is Ngoyama Tsakane.
I can't hear you. Say again, please.
My name is Ngoyama Tsakane. I want to ask, so how do we make sure that the fragrances that we smell every day do not affect us personally or in our mindset and also in our organs? How do we make sure that we use the correct fragrances every day that won't harm us in different ways?
Beautiful question. Thank you. So there are two parts to your question. The first question is, how do we know that the fragrances that we're using, the fragrances in the products that we're using on our bodies or in our homes are safe and won't make us ill or won't affect us in any way physically? And that is our job. That's the organization that I work for, and we have connections to international organizations which test every single fragrance ingredient to make sure that it's safe. The problem is that the companies have to be good companies. You can get guys who are doing things behind in the garage or whatever, and they don't stick to the rules. So my advice to you always is to buy a product which comes from a reputable, well-known, respected company, not somebody who's doing it in his backyard, okay? Because you never know what he's using. The second question you asked is a very interesting question. I could do a whole lecture on just that part. How do fragrances affect our mindset? And it's known that fragrances have a very, very deep effect on us. So, for example, if we want to relax, we should smell things like chamomile or lavender. They actually change our mindset. If we want to wake up and we want to be active, we should smell things like citrus oil and peppermint and spearmint oil. They wake us up. So that is called aromatherapy. And that's really about how the fragrances affect our emotions and our mind. And that's very different. And that's individual to each person. So there I would look at the topic called aromatherapy, and you will learn there which fragrances have which effects on our emotions and our bodies. Okay, did I answer your question? Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. Another question? Another question? No, any other question? Any other question? Can I conclude?
Okay.
Can I conclude? Right. Thank you very much, Sharon. That was quite insightful. And I hope the learners that have joined us today have learned quite a lot when it comes to flavors and fragrances. We have learned the chemistry there. A good question about how do they affect us. I know even for other people, you have sinuses. At times I get a headache if somebody is having this thing. And that is very much important for us to realize where do we buy these products that we are using on our skin. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You have been a very good audience. Thank you very much. Thank you to Sharon.